from me later, but the show begins with my classmate and dear friend, co-founder of Silicon Harlem, Bruce Lincoln.
Don, thanks. It's a great pleasure to have everyone here. We're really excited. So we certainly want to, get into the program quickly, but we have a special guest here who's been tremendously supportive of Silicon Harlem, and actually we go back to when I was his tutor at a program when he was a senior. So we have the Deputy Borough President of the City of Manhattan here, Al Bonilla. He wants to just share a little bit with you and welcome you here to Harlem.
Thank you. Technology is so powerful, Bruce just made Manhattan a city. Manhattan's a city now. It's great to be here. And in about 2 weeks, we'll be welcoming the city of Harlem, the Netherlands, here to the village of Harlem. That's going to happen in 2 weeks for a big kickoff of startups that is part of the long trajectory and legacy of Silicon Harlem here in New York. We'd like to take this opportunity as the Borough of Manhattan to welcome Princeton here to the Borough of Manhattan, to the village of Harlem. You're welcome. Just briefly, it's so important to thank all of you in the audience who are here to hear the latest thinking and insights around technology innovation and really making Harlem the cultural technology innovation hub for the Borough of Manhattan, if not the city of New York. So thank you for being here to listen to all the ideas that will be shared. Because sometimes you often lose sight that things just don't happen, right? Things just don't happen. It's usually people, often always people, that set ideas and movements in motion. And what Silicon Harlem has been involved with for the better part of over a decade now, probably, right? Has been really cultivating that kind of innovation, that kind of motivation to get community members involved in the digital revolution and the technological revolution and bridging that digital divide. And most importantly, in terms of for our office's participation, is really involving young people in the innovation and the digital economy in terms of purveying the digital literacy needed so that the gap doesn't exacerbate, but that not only closes, but that it's eliminated. So we thank Silicon Harlem for that. And again, we welcome Princeton, and we look forward to a great partnership. Thank you.
Fantastic. So let me hand this off to my partner, Don Seitz.
All right, this is really exciting. Thank you all for attending what I'm sure is going to be just a fabulous event with an all-star cast of alumni and friends of alumni who are in the entrepreneurial space. We have one other very special guest tonight, and I'm really pleased to introduce Latanya Buck. Latanya is Dean for Diversity and Inclusion at Princeton, and she wanted to share a few words of welcome as well. Latanya?
Thank you so very much. Thank you for the invitation. Very happy to be here. Happy Friday Eve. So beautiful. This is a very nice turnout. Again, my name is Latanya Buck. I serve as Dean for Diversity and Inclusion at Princeton. I've been at the university for a little over 2.5 years. It feels like 5, but that's okay. I mean that in a good way. I just wanted to provide just a few updates on some of our diversity and inclusion initiatives, and then also introduce my colleague here. So I am housed within the Office of the Vice President for Campus Life. And over the past several years, we've been working around developing an infrastructure for an office for diversity and inclusion that's focused on the student co-curricular learning experience. So we spent the past few years developing a framework for diversity and inclusion to focus student learning comes around D&I. What that means. We're looking at the student transitional experience from first year through senior year, and we've developed outcomes and expectations that we want for students to know and competencies by the end of their culminating experience at Princeton. And so examples of that is that students will be able to explore aspects of their identities as well as the identities of others. Students will engage concepts of power and privilege and oppression and what that means with regard to their experience at Princeton and globally. And so we are working to implement and integrate these outcomes into the overall student learning experience across the division so that it does not just rest within the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, but we're asking, what does this work look like in career services? What does it look like in university health services? What does it look like in the Department of Athletics? And so a lot of us have been working very diligently over the past few years on this. Within the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, we also house 3 centers, the Carl A. Field Center for Equality and Cultural Understanding, the Women's Center, as well as the LGBT Center. And collectively, we work to support and engage the overall student experience. So the student learning experience, to support students, we serve in an advising capacity, and then we also serve as a campus resource. And so in that way, we avail our of color on campus. A lot of great work has been happening in the Carl Field Center, and we would certainly like to increase the efforts of alumni engagement. Also, next academic year will be the 50th year of co-education of undergraduate women at Princeton University, and so we're looking for ways to engage alumni for that as well too. So we have a lot of great things planned for the Women's Center. Yeah, and so if you're interested, I have cards, or I would love to take your information. And then lastly, I would like to turn it over to my colleague Tennille, who will talk about some of the work in the Carl A. Field Center this year. So Tennille Haynes serves as director of the Field Center. Welcome, thank you for the invitation. I'm so very happy to be here.
Thank you, Latanya, thank you, John, and thank you also for having us here, Bruce, as well. Really excited to meet all of you and engage with you. Again, my name is Tennille Haynes. I serve as the director of the Carl A. Field Center for Equality and Cultural Understanding, formerly the Third World Center as well too. I've been at Princeton, this is my 7th year now, and I'm really excited to share with you all the great things that we have been doing in addition to what Latanya just talked about. If you have not been to the Carl Field Center, I really encourage you to come and visit. We have completely transformed the space to make sure that it is a student-centered, student-friendly space as well too. We are trying our very best to cultivate the experience and the feeling that the Third World Center gave to students, to try to do that for our current students as well now. We are really engaged in the student experience. Right now, during the 2019 year, we will be celebrating 10 years of the Field Center, and in 2021, we will also be celebrating 50 years of the Third World Center and all the work that is done in Princeton as well. So along with that, we're doing great programs and events, as Tanya said. We also oversee the Princeton University Mentorship Program, which is also now incorporated alumni mentors to mentor our mentors. And with that program, and over the past year, we have doubled our numbers of the amount of participants who are part of that experience as well too. We also have our Carl Field Center Fellows Program, which serves as diversity peer educators. And they're doing great work on campus and are just now are engaging with the eating clubs and doing some workshops around dialoguing around diversity and inclusion as well too. We work with the residents.
And Tennille, thank you again for coming up from Princeton today, as many of folks in the audience did. But more about that in a second. Again, I'm John Seitz. I work at the Princeton Entrepreneurship Council, and more about that after the panel discussion. But then my fellow MC is now working the technology here. But it's really my pleasure. This is an idea that Bruce and I kicked around probably 2 years ago at our reunions. gathering. And it's just delightful that PEC and Silicon Harlem have come together along with Princeton Alumni Association of New York to bring this event together. So without any further delay, back to Bruce.
Thanks, Don. And it shows you that if you stay at it long enough, things that you never thought would happen. So it's really a true pleasure to have you all here. One from my alma mater, Princeton University, but as well here at Silicon Harlem. I think it's an important way that we've come together. But I'd be remiss if I didn't have all of our current undergraduates stand up, give a shout out, and recognize that they're here. Please stand up. If you are up, please stand up. Thank you so much. We want you to have a great time, but also come back with something that would make your experience at Princeton very special. We're getting ready to get into the panel, and so first let me just give everyone's name, and then what I'll first do is ask everyone to just give a little snapshot of whom they are. To my left is Amina Yamusah of BLOC, Riley Jones, her co-founder from BLOC. Riley is cool because he went to Columbia, so it's all good. That's my second college, so it's all good. Ida Epidune from Princeton, Jared Crooks, and Camille Ali Jackson. Those are our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. The idea is to have them really stimulate what will turn into an interactive discussion where we look at sort of why you became an entrepreneur, what it is you do entrepreneurially, what are some of the larger social ideas that may inform your work, and then hopefully those things will resonate with you to where we'll then have an interactive Q&A. So I'd like to first hand the mic to Amina, who will tell us a little about how she got into entrepreneurship. Keep it to a couple minutes.
Looking short. So as Bruce mentioned, my name is Amina Yamusah. I'm the CTO and co-founder of BLOC. We build workforce development technology, essentially learning management systems for workforce development programs. I think honestly, if we talk about my entrepreneurial journey and how I got into it, I started at Princeton, to be honest. I saw myself being an environmental lawyer since I was maybe about, or civil rights, so about 7. It was only when I got to Princeton that the idea of starting a company kind of came to mind. It really came from some of my experiences as a student, particularly I think as a Black student at Princeton. So some of the challenges, for example, when it came to navigating career, for example, getting internships, was a real pain point I witnessed for a lot of my friends who were students of color, whereas, for example, some of my white peers were having a much more seamless time navigating that journey. So recognizing, right, that I did not know how to play the game, and whereas, I kind of came to Princeton thinking it was all about academics, realizing there was a core social capital or social soft skills building that I need to do. So that was really the work that I ended up, creating the first iteration of BLOC for Oath Riley. It's focused on building social capital for Black college students, helping them find careers. We ended up building internal tools to build our capacity, because work is really hard. And that essentially powers what we're doing now. We essentially white label a much nicer, I think, more advanced version of what we build out to kind of solve our own problem as an early company.
Good evening. So my name's Riley Jones. As Bruce mentioned, you guys are my hood. I'm a Columbia alum, but I'm also from Chicago, and so it's really funny that my entrepreneurial journey actually, in many ways, started with Princeton. So in the summer of 2014, I spent summer at the City of Chicago Department of Innovation and Technology. And up to that point, my understanding of what an entrepreneur was, frankly, was just someone who didn't have a job. And the entire summer, the CTO will tell me, like, hey, there's this guy, Phil, he runs the mayor's entrepreneurship arm, he needs me. I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, he's an entrepreneur. I was like, okay, that's great. So we spent the entire summer playing, missing each other and that kind of thing. And then my last week of the internship, she says, Phil's here, you need to meet him, and he's amazing. I'm like, okay, cool. So we set up this meeting with Phil. Now, Phil walks in, 6'4" Black dude, who graduated from Princeton, in like 8th grade, an engineer, had sold a company to ComEd, which is the Midwest's biggest electricity provider. And he took me to the co-working space in Chicago, 1871. And he showed me around and was like, everybody's like, Phil's the man. And I'm like, this is really weird. This is not what my framework for this was. So coming off of that internship in the fall of 2014, there was a conference at Princeton called Breaking It Down. I literally went because I was going to go to Princeton for it. So, and the kind of tagline was social capital for Black college students. And at the conference, I was like, this is really amazing. I took a couple of friends with me. We were like, this is really great. And I went up to this woman and I said, hey, I don't know what I need to do, but I want to help you put this next one. And 4.5 years later, here we are. So,
Hello. Is this one on? Can you hear me? Great. Hi everyone, I'm Ida Kudum, class of 03. So yeah, good things happen in class of 03. My entrepreneurial journey was more of the traditional Princeton experience. Actually, I'll take it a step back. It's more of the immigrant experience of, I'm Nigerian, and my parents were like, you will go to one of 12 schools. And when I brought other things, they're like, no, you will go to one of 12 schools. And of course, I came in and I was pre-med, and I got to Orgo. And of course, I took Orgo for organic chemistry majors, and I took Mol-Bio for Mol-Bio majors, classic immigrant story. And then I was just like, wait, I got one of, I remember my team was like, you're not really good at this. I'm not really good at this, but I'm Nigerian and we're doctors. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, you know us. Okay, we're in oil, yeah, exactly. And so I ultimately decided, okay, I'm gonna do non-science pre-med. So I became a psych major ultimately, and I did the certificate in finance, which was just rolling out. Did my thesis on interpersonal rejection. I was like, what does somebody who did their thesis, an empirical thesis on interpersonal rejection do? You go to Goldman Sachs. And I went to Wall Street. So my parents were like, where's our doctor? Where's this happening? And then I sent my first bonus home to them. They're like, I like this Goldman Sachs. So that kind of shifted me on the path of the other end of the spectrum of large multinational. I did debt capital markets, I traded preferred stock. And I loved the people, but I didn't necessarily love the job. And so ultimately, the path along the way, after business school, I decided, let me go try something different. And I worked in true corporate America. I worked at American Express. And I realized that I missed the environment of working in a more nimble environment. So I went smaller, and then ultimately decided I want to focus on who I want to work with and the demographic that I wanted to work with. And I read articles that were like, oh, women don't want to be leaders and CEOs. They just want lifestyle businesses. I was like, those are not the women I went to Princeton with, worked at Goldman with, went to Wharton with. Like, those are not the women that I know. And so I wanted to start something where I could focus on helping women who I knew wanted to be leaders and build interesting companies, work on that. So I started my own advisory firm, working with women, Tigress, of course, Tigress Ventures, working with women entrepreneurs and investors. And through that course, I ended up doing a lot of different things in the ecosystem. And I like to say, had I been a guy leaving Goldman, I probably, knowing that I wanted to be an investor, I would have been like, oh, let me just go raise a fund. And like, men just raised a couple $100 million with like no track record. No woman ever, even some, and I'm seeing on the other side now, have been able to do that without extensive track records. And so I wanted to learn the ecosystem, and that's what I did. And ultimately, I ended up moving to the investing side in venture capital. And the last summer, I joined a firm called Gingerbread Capital, and we invest in female founders. So I'm getting to do my green card.
Hello. I'm Jared Crooks, class of 11, grad class of 15. I fell into entrepreneurship, actually it was by accident, and mostly because I wanted my wife to continue being my wife. So my path into entrepreneurship in Princeton, so I did Astro. Entrepreneurship was just someone who was making money. I didn't realize that you could also make money and do good. So we started a fruit and nut bar company called Nori, and it was just in our kitchen. We started in, 2012. And we started in Charlottesville. We eventually were selling in Whole Foods and Safeways and all sorts of stuff. And for every bar that was purchased, we were feeding kids a hot meal in school because we didn't want kids to go to school hungry or to have to make the decision to stay home. And that's coming from a sort of a social impact and mission statement. And we were eventually able to help over 50,000, serve 50,000 meals. And that got me thinking about, well, entrepreneurship really is a way to solve problems. It's an entrepreneurial mindset. You guys, thank you so much, you undergrads, for coming. It's 2 weeks after midterms, and you just went through this too, but it's a mindset of how you solve really complex problems or simple problems with solutions that can make money, but you can also be good with it as well. I eventually went off after being finished with Nuri, and after a few ventures into clinical trial logistics, I landed myself in fashion, beauty, and tech products, which we can talk about. But that was my story.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to start with my family history because I'm very proud of it. So I'm middle class of 81, sister class of 78, husband class of 79, mother class of 2018, cousin class of 2014, and 1983. So I am an accidental entrepreneur or an intentional entrepreneur, depending on whose perspective you look at. So the way I got here is because I almost got fired. I had a black female boss. I did everything the traditional way. I went to Princeton. I went to Harvard Law School. I'm first generation, college educated person. All of my sisters were first generation. Our parents were not college educated. So I did all the right way. My father said, go get a job in a company where you make more than your age. 25 years old, I'm making $32,000. That my father said, you are successful. I believed him. So I went to work with a law firm, in a big company, and I would have stayed at a big company forever, except that the black female boss and the white female colleague tried to fire me. So I called my sisters up on the phone, and they all agreed that I, of course, was correct, and they would come and beat their butts, okay, because of a particular legal issue, I was right. As a result of that, I intentionally decided I'm not staying here because I know I'm right, so I'm actually going to go look for another job. So I looked for another job, and I ended up meeting a Nigerian. Okay? And this Nigerian taught me, he's like a James Earl Jones voice, okay, huge guy physically, and he taught me, hire the best so that he can go to sleep at night. So he loved to delegate, so he only hired excellence, okay? He'd always say this, he'd say, woman, I hired you because I want to be able to sleep at night. Okay? I want to be able to delegate. And I always remember that, because if you hire the good people, it only shines up. You will succeed if you hire good people. So I always remember that lesson. As a result, though, he gave me an opportunity to work for a small company. I left Merck, which was the gold standard in the pharma company. Nobody left Merck. You had a pension there, you stayed there for life, you stayed retired in place if you weren't doing any work. Okay? So I left there because I was so fired up, because I was determined that I was not going to do something that I thought was unethical at the time. So I go to this company, we sold controlled substances. Actually, on the street, we sold more Percocet than we sold, but that didn't matter. That was a cash cow. As a result of that cash cow, we were able to get other products that were branded products. And from there, I started to follow this particular individual. Yes, I follow the man. Women, if you're confident and you know that you're good, it doesn't matter if you follow somebody else, okay? Eventually, you end up being the leader and somebody else is following you. So I ended up going to this small company, and then from there, we started developing other companies. All of my founders, co-founders are white males, okay? Every day they come into the office and they can't believe that I'm still there. They don't understand how I got the corner office, which in fact they gave to me, but they forget that they gave it to me. And so that's how I became an entrepreneur. I've sold at least 3 companies, usually about $250 million up front. All of the companies that I've sold, As a result of those companies, my children, my husband and I have been able to pay for all of our children's educations. So that the point of, not telling you that so I can brag, but the point is to tell you that the reason why I do that is because I want my daughters to be able to walk away and not work for any jerk that they don't want to work with, okay?
That was powerful. So, but, and to play off of that, what I want to ask each of our entrepreneurs is, what is that one moment that was pivotal in you making the decision to pursue what you're doing entrepreneurially in a specific way? Amina, you want to start with it first?
So I think I'm also African Ghanaian. I'm having Indian. So my parents wanted me to be a lawyer and a doctor. They send me JD programs to this day whenever I see them. I think the moment where I decided to commit, as this is a lifetime journey potentially. I was applying to law schools. I had recently left my first amazing job working under Tennille, who is still one of my very close mentors. I left that job and I was working on what was then called Breaking It Down part-time. Kind of the negotiation with my parents for still living in their house was that I had to take the LSAT. And I had to apply to that cycle of law school programs. So it was maybe before the unofficial deadline for law school programs, which I think was around like January 1st, something right after the new year. And I was kind of having this anxiety, but you know what? I'm gonna be the good African child. I'm gonna submit this application to make my parents proud. I'm gonna go through with it. My brothers actually pulled me aside after the new year, and they said, "We know you want to make mom and dad proud, right? But they're like, you have to go with your heart." And so we're not saying that means you should grow up and be an entrepreneur. Like, it seems like it's a struggle. Like, it's probably gonna be easier to go to law school. But they're saying if your heart says to do this, that's what you need to do. So yeah, it's really, I think my brothers are the reason that I ended up committing to entrepreneurship.
I had a bit of a different experience. So I went, I'm really young. I went straight through from Columbia to, I'm in actually my second year of law school at NYU. I had no real inclination of like what it meant to like be a full-time entrepreneur really when we first kind of dived into this thing. I would say actually Amina was a big part of what made me commit to the idea. And I think also just the people that we were affecting. I hadn't been familiar with the concept of social entrepreneurship. I came to New York knowing that I wanted to help people, particularly as it related to the issues of education and workforce development, that kind of stuff. I was always interested in that stuff. My grandparents were Chicago public school teachers for 40 years. So it was just kind of in my DNA in that respect. But the other problem was I come from a low-income background. So I had to figure out a way to kind of balance those things. And so the idea of social entrepreneurship that I was introduced to through BLOC and through other things that we've done, like my green and other stuff like that, was actually just really transformational. It was really for me more of a conceptual change than it was anything kind of tangibly changing. And being able to kind of have that framework where it was like, oh, like I actually do what I care about, like for the most part every day. And I realized that there were a lot of people, particularly lawyers, that couldn't say that every day, and that was something that I was really intentional about doing.
So, I mean, I think mine would go back to my mother. I mean, my parents came to the U.S. in the 60s with study abroad programs with USAID. And I always remember my mom talked to her, and they weren't coming to Princeton. They didn't put them in Princeton. They put them at like University of Arkansas, at Little Rock, and my dad did his PhD at University of Nebraska. So my mom always told the story about her first roommate refused to live with her because she was both black and foreign. And so those kind of things where my mother was always the one that was like, similarly, don't work for and be in an environment where you're not appreciated. And if she had her way, we would have been the Black Montracts. I would have written poetry. Like it was just, she had this vision of like a family of McKinsey, just one little family business. But that ultimately, or doctor, that would have been the nice other one. But I have seen what they did when they left during the Biafran War in Nigeria. They literally left. My mother didn't talk to her brother and her family for 2 years. They didn't know, they weren't able to communicate. So that spirit of venturing out into the unknown was just, I saw that and I didn't appreciate it till later. And coming out of Princeton, having that experience and going to what was the gold standard, and it still in many ways is, of Wall Street, to start my career, it just kind of seemed like, why would you leave that? But in that time frame, you could tell my family were very close. In 2004, my father passed away. In 2007, my mother passed away. And in 2009, my sister passed away. And she was only 33. So it just kind of fundamentally shifted for me, the fact that time is short. And I don't want to spend my time not doing something that I care about. And I've been surrounded by strong women and also strong men who backed strong women. And so I was just like, I don't like the narrative that I'm seeing, so I want to go out there and do something in my little way to change that. So that was my goal.
I can remember the exact moment when it happened. It was a Saturday in Whole Foods, busiest moment that they had. So we didn't have a product. And in order to get your product on the shelves of Whole Foods, which is like the gold standard for those organic things, you had to have some investment in money. We didn't have that. So we created some fake boxes and some fake product. We did some guerrilla style marketing and moved some stuff off the shelf and put our stuff up there and just watched what happened when people would come up. It's very interesting. So, this was back in 2012 when, like, we just wanted to see. So you had me over there looking over the shelves like this. This one guy walks by, he looks at the little fake thing, he goes like, huh. And he tries to pick it up, and there's nothing there. That's it. Like, that guy, just like in 1 to 2 seconds, sort of saw the branding, saw what we were trying to do, and he was actually gonna spend money on something that we created. And it brought me back to this idea of creating wealth for myself, because I knew I wasn't gonna get it generationally if I'm working for somebody else. And so that idea of being able to create my own journey and create something that I can pass down within the family, that was really important. So it was like the hunt that sort of was heard around the world.
Our whole focus, our parents had told us you go work for somebody because they were a generation that could not work for just anybody they wanted to work for. And so they thought it was success if you got to work for these large white organizations. So that was everything that they impressed upon us. Go work for somebody and get a paycheck and stay there forever. And so when I was forced to look for something else outside of the large organization, and I had this opportunity with this Nigerian boss that I had no idea that there were preferred stock. I didn't know the difference between a stock and a bond. In fact, when I got out of law school and I interviewed with the SEC, the question I was asked was, what's the difference between a stock and a bond? And I did not know the answer, and so the guy asked me at the end of the interview, do you have any questions? And I said, yeah, what's the difference between a stock and a bond? And I got the job. But that's another story, because the bottom line, I decided I wasn't going to get the job, but I was certainly going to be educated about what the difference is between a stock and a bond. So I found out years later after working, for this large company, that you actually can make money, but not through a paycheck, through equity, through ownership. So the first job I had outside of Merck, I got equity, $1 million worth of, a million options, not $1 million worth, 1 million options, okay? I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm thinking, oh, this paper doesn't mean anything. And then I find out, oh no, it means a lot when somebody buys you. Subsequently, as I said, the first company was sold in 2010. We started in 2005, sold in 2010. $250 million up front, $100 million option payment, up to $1 billion in options, in royalties and milestone payments. My children would get royalty checks from a company that they did not work at. Okay? And so that was the first thing that I found out, that if you are willing to take the risk, to jump, and not just do the safe thing. You can do a lot of different things. There's so many things open to you. But again, our experiences are we didn't know. We didn't go people who own stock, we didn't know their options were.
So what I want to ask each of you to relate to the audience next is, and I think you're starting to see a set of themes where what we're seeing within the context of the temerity, these entrepreneurs, they're finding creative ways to address issues that one would expect to be there, but as they confront them, they're finding ways to overcome them. What I want you to do is tell me, when you wake up in the morning, what is that one burning issue that drives you each day?
Oh, I'm gonna say, hire more black people, okay? Our company started in 2012, this is my third company, in 2012, with 7 people. It's, 6 white men and myself, okay? And I was the only lawyer and I did everything. And we grew, we're now about 171 people, we're a publicly traded company now, and they were not hiring any black people. And they wouldn't let me hire any lawyers because I was doing all the work and nothing was falling through the cracks. So they said, you're doing a good job, you don't need anybody. And so finally I said, no, when we became a publicly traded company, I have to have another lawyer. And then they started to notice that I was only hiring black people. Princeton people. I have a class, Sultant Brown works for me. It's from Princeton. I've given business to other Princeton classmates, black classmates. And so my CEO says to me, a couple of people saying that you don't hire black people. I said, yeah, but you don't hire white people. And then I decided to put the legal spin on it. I said, and by the way, I'm actually helping the company because when the EEOC comes in here, the only black people are in the legal department. But at least you have some black people. Okay? So at the end of the day, my group is actually one of the most diverse groups in the company. But that's what I think every day. It's actually, being an entrepreneur is not about actually generating wealth for yourself. It's actually, this is what I learned, it's about being able to hire other people who will then get a paycheck or equity and wealth. And that's how you actually get generational and cultural and people wealth. If you expand and grow the number of folks who get access to the money and the opportunities, not just yourself.
Yeah, I think sort of on the earlier stage startup, I think where I asked that question of, what am I doing today, is how am I creating value? And that's a real burning question, like how am I creating real value today? Because you have to relate the product, whatever your product is, whatever you're creating, to a story, to a narrative that someone will buy, or to someone will identify with to sell a service. And if you're not waking up every day with that question, or some vein of that, is how are you not only advancing the business, but how are you creating that value? And that can mean a great many things. That can mean a really big thing, like how am I thinking about a new pivot, in case the direction of where I think it was thinking has to go a different way. What's my new strategy for customer acquisition, but how am I creating actual value?
And I think for me, it's back to that whole changing the narrative. I started in an industry where, when I was a trader, I was one of 5 women on the Goldman sales and trading desk that was a trader. And at that point, and that was only 2005, we had the most women traders on Wall Street on one desk. Now it's 5 women. And I think that was probably a peak. I don't know that there's that many on a single trading desk right now. But it was one of those things where you kind of looked around and then you looked up, and we came in 50-50 in our analyst class and into our associate class, but then it just started drifting off. And I was like, well, why is that? And when I ultimately chose to leave, it was just that I could sit here and make very rich people richer, and miss when these major milestones happened with my parents, and I got the call at work, or I could know that I would have no regrets and be doing something where the end result was having impact, and it was, you know, backing women. And so we at Gingerbread, we back women directly at entrepreneurs, but then we also back women that are GPs at other funds, because you need to attack the problem at both ends. Where women entrepreneurs need more capital, we need more women writing checks. So we are both limited partners in other funds that are backed by women and underrepresented minorities. We're actually also LPs in Harlem Capital, which is 4 Black men. So we want to change the ratio of who has money and then who's getting money. And so to me, when I hope we'll see, like, out of our portfolio come a couple of billionaire women out there. And today, actually, the announcement, we were part of Sally Krawcheck's $33 million raise, along with Valerie Jarrett and a few others, for Elvest. And that's backing, getting women to think more about their financial independence and financial freedom. So that's what makes me excited to get out of
that. I think 2 things. So we're in a space, particularly in software, in tech, where historically, I don't think there have been, at scale, companies that are actually thinking about social impact. And so that's something that we talk about every day, is how do we make sure that whatever we do, whatever that final iteration is, it is actually impactful. And so we have these kind of continuous conversations about what are the values of our company. We work with workers, students, and other types of marginalized identities. So it's very important to us as an early stage company that, like, when we're at $1 billion, right, that we're actually still as close to our values as possible. So that's something that I think we talk about every day. The people that we meet, where we started as an organization that was literally storing conferences to connect students of color and professionals of color. And so I've gone to, like, pitch conferences and all these other things where people will come up to me and say, "Are you the same block that did this conference at NYU 3 or 4 years ago?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is, like, you changed my life." And hearing that and running into people who say, the thing that you're working on, that you spend your, you put blood, sweat, and tears into, actually changed my life, that is what keeps me going.
So I think I'm a lot pettier than you. I think part of it for me, does everyone know who Elizabeth Holmes is? Yeah, she's a white female founder who started a company, became worth $9 billion. Turned out, I think she's being investigated for fraud now, for defrauding the federal government and all of her investors. They're sitting here.
Yes.
I'm like, man, Elizabeth Holmes, a $9 billion company, with technology that does not exist. I better make a company, using my skills, right? So yeah, there's that level of pettiness that definitely drives it. And then I think the other part is I am a bit of a, I'm a data nerd, so I'm a software engineer and data engineer. And I think part of it is looking at just really the numbers and really focusing on what you're talking about with hiring Black people. So looking at the fact that if you're a Black person or with a Black sounding name and you submit a resume, you're 50% less likely to get a call back to be interviewed for a job, right? That statistic is so significant that, for example, if you're a Black person without a criminal record, you're less likely to be employed than a white person with a white sounding name with a criminal record, right? That's a stat that keeps me up at night, but somehow still keeps me moving in the morning, right? Another stat that really drives me was research that came out, I wish I remember which federal office it came out of, talking about the fact that by 2050, the Black middle class might not exist, right? That Black median wealth might be $0. A report came out about Boston as a city, right? Saying $8, right? A cup of coffee and what? Like, I don't even think you can get a full meal at McDonald's, right? For much more than $8. So it's statistics like that that I think keep me, that keep me moving forward. So I think racial justice really is at the focus of what we're doing, economic justice, not getting stuck in the question just about coaching an individual problem, but systemic problem, and remembering, right, like, Black median wealth is going to be $0, not because of Black people's capabilities, right, because of institutional racism and the history of slavery, right, and mass incarceration, all of these issues that still impact the community. So yeah, that's, I guess, what motivates me.
Let's give everyone a hand. This has been important from the standpoint that a number of issues have been raised that I don't think normally get talked about when you talk about entrepreneurship. So I'm glad that everyone has had the courage to put forth those ideas, especially with Camille opening up the way. And just to sort of talk a little bit more, and then we're getting ready to open it up for questions so we can really start to have a back and forth with the audience. But in a lighter vein, and not that it was so humorous when you encountered it, but one of the things that you encounter as a person of color, as African American, are weird obstacles that you've never thought of, and people pose those things to you with some type of question that you really wouldn't have any answer to. So dig back into your background. Hope you don't have anything from today, but talk about an incident that was like the craziest thing you ever heard, but which crystallized for you why you were going to be successful, what you were doing. Camille, do you want to go first, or should I start from this one?
No, start.
Okay.
So you're saying,
What's the creed? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So when I say that we focus on backing women entrepreneurs, they're like, wow, that's such a niche market. And I'm like, we're 51% of the population, control 11.2 trillion in investable assets. The ex-trader me is like, I'll take that trade all day long.
so I think the craziest one for us, we were accused of reverse algorithmic racism. Actually, when we were applying for the Alumni Entrepreneurship Fund, to the point where our application was almost rescinded from the process because there's this concern that we were using algorithms to give Black employees and Latinos, job seekers, an unfair advantage. And so I was shocked, right? Because I've never been accused of reverse racism, at least not to my face. Right? Like, it's not even something that I know, it's not something that exists in mine. Right, so I was like, whoa, this is like, I was intrigued, right? I was like, tell me, like, what do you think I'm doing? But yeah, that was one of those moments where it really made me sit down and think, wow, right, there are these entrenched disparities, and I'm being accused of being racist for trying to address them. But it was
I think for me, it was when I was working on a clinical trial logistics to help pharmaceuticals. And we were in a meeting with sort of one of these larger firms to talk about an end-to-end system. And these questions sort of came up because one of my co-founders was sort of a VP of these places. And it came up, oh, I see what you do, but why is he here? Pointing to me. And it sort of continued like literally in the meeting. And I'm like, I built it. But it sort of like proved this out, that yes, there's certainly misconceptions. There are opportunities around that, but they definitely exist.
Okay. All right, I thought so. One of our co-founders, I know this is big tape, but one of our co-founders, he went to an unaccredited law school. And when we were developing our company back in 2012, my current CEO actually inherited me because I was with the company that we just sold, and we also created a portfolio management company that's got several companies under it. So I was like the lawyer for 4 different privately held companies and this holding company, and then we created this other company that I'm with currently now in 2012. So one of the founders, who's our regulatory guru, he's also into this unaccredited law school. And so we were having a discussion with our CEO on a legal issue, and this person decided that he felt that he knew the legal perspective, so he was going to give his opinion. So I walked into the CEO's office later and I said, okay, listen, if I'm going to work for you, you can either have the unaccredited lawyer's advice, okay, or you can have the lawyer that actually passed the bar's advice, okay? Not only did he go to unaccredited law school, he's never taken the bar, okay? I said, but you can't have both. And from that day forward, he never, ever, ever took that person's advice ever again. But I thought to myself, I cannot believe this. I can understand maybe, being challenged by another lawyer, but I'm up here being challenged by somebody that didn't even take the bar. So that's, of corporate America, and that's entrepreneurial America. And that's like.
Let's start to open it up for questions. And there's a mic back there where you can frame your question.
We don't buy.
You can, that's right. Get on up, you can, please.
Good evening. My name is Amina Yamusah. I'm a freshman at Princeton. Okay, so I've been thinking of the topic of entrepreneurship for a while, and I've noticed that while you guys were talking, that you from my point of view, you mainly mentioned yourselves and your family, but when you're forming your own ventures, like how do you know which people to rope in, who to ask for advice, and things like that when you're forming your ideas and that kind of thing?
So I hope all of you know that there's resources at Princeton. They're online. They're on the internet, as I like to say. And so you need to, one, go to our conference that we're having in October for Black alumni. It's free. We never see enough students, so you need to be interacting. You need to go online to the ABPA's website, and you need to get the directory of all alumni. You need to go to there's a Princeton directory. We have a real huge book that has all Princeton alumni in it. You need to reach out to every single alumni that you possibly can. Do not be afraid to ask somebody for help. They can only say no. They will not kill you. My husband, they may say you're a pain in the butt, that you keep on harassing them. But my husband always tells my daughters this: success is never final. Failure is never fatal. Ask for help. I also tell people who are also asking for help, keep your hand outstretched, okay? Because someone that I met through my sister told me this. She's from India, and she said her father always told her, if you keep your hand outstretched, a whole bunch of stuff comes in, and of course, you give a lot. But if you keep your hand like this, you're right, you don't give away anything, but nothing can come back to you. So always try to help as much as you ask for help.
So I would also say, as someone who's pretty relatively close to the process, I was really, I came into college not knowing what I wanted to do, right? So I'd say two things from the academic perspective. I'd say explore to the degree that you can kind of stay on whatever path that you're in, because something that I bring to any meeting that I'm in is that I study political science, I study sociology and history. I'm also a musician. So I can operate in a variety of different kind of frameworks. So that's one. And then two, I would say to your point, reach out to everybody that you think is interesting. I'm just gonna write the email for you right now. Hi, what's your name? Anika. Hi, Anika. Hi, I'm Anika. I'm a freshman student at Princeton University. I think what you're doing is really cool, and I'd love to talk to you over coffee. Do you have time in the next 2 weeks? I promise you, send that out to 10 people, 5 people will get back to you. I promise you.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that Princeton is the first place to start. I'm also a big proponent of LinkedIn, but also a meetup and Eventbrite. So I will find the person I want to connect with on LinkedIn. Then I will search for their name in Eventbrite or in Meetup, or I'll literally type in Google their name in Eventbrite, because I think it's so valuable to meet people in person, right? People are getting, especially if they're successful at what they're doing, they've been inundated with cold emails, and just to prove that you're not a creep, honestly, at some levels, really helps with building connections. So I will literally find an event where they're attending, and I will go to the event, and then I'll make sure I ask the first question, and that has gotten us some really prominent advisors throughout the work we're doing, some really strong partnerships. We're starting a coalition where some of those relationships I've built through that. So it's a little strategic, it's a little crazy, but yeah, it helps.
I think the takeaway was before this technology exists for a reason. Like LinkedIn exists for a particular reason. I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. And I use Boolean searches, so you can put things in quotes. So if you're looking for somebody that studies astrophysics, you can literally put in quotes astrophysics and you'll find those people. Right, so Jeremy. But it's the combination of those technological tools combined with the interpersonal that makes us able to do what we do.
But don't just reach out to the usual suspects.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't go to Melody Hobson. Go to some other people.
And I would say you're in the first of three more glorious years. Go outside of your comfort zone. And this is the 4 years where you are going to get to meet people from kind of all over the world that are not like you. Take that opportunity to do that. I was a tight Russian, so I was in a cappella, and the two girls that I was fit with are two of my closest friends now. One made partner at Goldman last year, her husband is a venture capitalist. So like that relationship that you make right there, first year through all 4 years, they really can end up being people that you start your business with. People that you come around, like, I introduced one of my other roommates to her husband. Like, there's so many things that can come out of this relationship, but take the time to build the relationships, because entrepreneurship at its heart is a game of relationships, and particularly when it comes to getting money. I get so many emails, I can't respond to them all, but if one of my good friends from Princeton sends me that email saying, hey, this is somebody, I will find time. So this network, and then also the fact that they're meaningful. Don't be the transactional person that's just like, hey, I have a company, you write checks, will you invest in me? Like in the first second, no, just don't do that. Really take the time and very suavely do it and figure out how to end up in a way where you're like, wow, that's a great question. How did you know me so well? But build relationships on campus and off.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Trang Chow. I'm currently a junior studying electrical engineering, and my question is, so the startup success rate is not very high, and a lot of most exits are not the extravagant ones that you hear on the news. And I was wondering, what do you do, and what philosophies that you follow every day, big or small, that helps you beat these odds?
Great question. Amina and I were actually just talking about this before the panel. I think it's very important to decouple yourself from the identity of the startup, of your venture. And the reason why I say that is because the entrepreneurship, the startup game is very up and down. There's some very high highs and some very low lows. And if you tie your own self-worth and self-esteem to some random market chance happening and you have no control over whether some users are going to take this or a competitor enters into the space, you can get burnt out very quickly. So daily, some of the things that I like to do is spend 15 minutes in the morning or at night, just sort of thinking through, okay, what are the things I'm doing today that create value, and how am I going to approach that step, and trying to approach it with a clear mind. But you're right, the success rate is like 9-7%, something very, very low. So chances are your first startup isn't going to work, and that's okay, because it is a journey. A lot of us up here, I think everybody up here is bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. So it's addictive. And whatever learnings that you learn from your failures and your successes, you bring them over to your next startup.
Startups are not just tech startups. They're not just the new economy startups. Okay, and I think people need to start thinking about startups and entrepreneurship a little bit differently, because otherwise you can end up thinking, oh, it's the unemployed person. Or it's the company that's failed. The first company that I went to, it was a company where the product that we had was a century-year-old product, lidocaine. It had been around for centuries. It didn't have any patent protection. But what we did was we put it into a patch, and it was for a very small group of people. It was an orphan drug indication. So we were going to sell a lot of it. But what happened is doctors started giving it to people for everything. And because of the platform, people were putting for everything. Oh, my leg hurts. It had nothing to do with that. It was supposed to be for post-traumatic neuralgia, from shooters, okay? Which is a very small group. That was the first company, okay? The second company was a product that a big pharma company said, shelve it, this is no good. Again, an orphan indication, children who could not eat, very small group of people. But the second indication was for asthma. That's the product that we sold for $250 million, plus royalties up to $1 billion. The company that we're at right now, hydrogen peroxide. Everybody thinks they know what hydrogen peroxide is. They see the bottle, the brown bottle, the 3%. We are a much different concentration. We've got a proprietary formulation on that. But it's not a unique compound. Still, you can make money from things that are not necessarily the newest idea, okay? Or the fastest idea. Sometimes you just have to think out the box. Don't always think entrepreneurship and startup means new, something that no one's ever done before.
And I would also say, from the capital perspective, think about where you get your money from. Everybody wants to be Mark Zuckerberg, right? Like, I came up with the idea, and then I'm like billions later, and I went through venture capital, right? Venture capital is not the only route to get money for your business. When you take venture capital, they expect a kind of returns in a short kind of time frame. And if you are thinking, this is something I want to build and work on for the next 50 years, that is not the money to be taking if you're not aligned on that vision. So know that there's multiple different paths of money to take, and make sure that you are thinking about what kind of business do I want to build, and whose money do I want to take. And also, 50%, like you want to try to maintain your majority ownership for as long as possible, because once you're less than 50%, you can be kicked out of your own company. So be very careful as you take money that you're not diluting yourself to the point where you are no longer in charge of the decision making and somebody else can boot you out of it. So I think those are a couple of big things. But then I also say, I'm not necessarily gunning for the $1 billion+ exit. To me, a $250 million, who's not going to take $250 million in this room? Let me roll that dice for $1 billion and go for zero? No. People don't understand statistics, and I'm like, there's many measures of success, and it's not, we're getting caught up in like billion or bust. There's lots of success and lots of generational success that happen $100 million or less. If you owned 100% of $50 million, look at Sarah Blakely, she pretty much owns all the things.
That's right.
And that's a $1 billion company, and she has kept almost 100% of that company to herself, and she started it with $4,000.
That's right. And that's an idea, pantyhose, cut off the pantyhose.
Exactly. Billions.
Some people really meant that, they just didn't go and try to sell it.
Because women want to fit into their clothes.
I think piggybacking on that, looking at stories of successful entrepreneurs and realizing so many of them have failed their first go around, right? We don't remember Steve Jobs for his first company. I don't even remember the name of it, right? For Apple. I think things like that help you release that fear of that, at least that first failure. I think another piece of it is realizing you have pizza off before, right? I don't know if this is why I'm getting into Princeton and finishing Princeton is probably harder, right? So keeping that in mind to create some type of perspective. And to keep you motivated, and again, so you can kind of compartmentalize and detach yourself from that fear of being that negative statistic. And honestly, I would say big. I know this is kind of a tangent, but when I was 18, I was an atheist. When I was maybe 24, in the weeds of BLOC, I wasn't sure, and now I'm here every day, right? To keep you so I think that having external support systems, whether it's faith, family, something that keeps you motivated, really.
I was thinking two things. I think to Ida's point, it's not necessarily the way startups die is not always money. Sometimes it's like just the best network startup that wins. So the thing that I think I'm like the biggest advocate of is just like be nice to people. Because you genuinely never know who's gonna be where in 10, 15 years. I mean, there was a guy that I had like American politics with literally 4 or 5 years ago. Never spoke to him in class. We're connected on LinkedIn. In November, Amina and I were named to like 30 under 30, whatever. He sends me a note. Hey, I love what you're doing. I think my organization would love to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. Brings us out in the next month. We love this, and we're like in the process of talking to them now, right? But, you know, being that person that's like always adding value first to people rather than asking for value is going to pay dividends. That's the first thing I do when I meet someone. I say, hey, oh, you should meet this person. And I did that even just today, right? Like it's just if you practice that every day, it can be karma, it can be whatever you want to call it, but it just pays dividends.
We have time for one more question. Please, take the mic. No, we need it. No, take the mic when we're recording.
Oh, sorry. I'm very intrigued. Can you just tell us a little more about what BLOC does?
So we build learning management systems, essentially smart career portals for workforce centers programs. So we primarily are working right now with small independent workforce training programs that focus on upskilling primarily technology-focused skills. The organization that Riley was mentioning is a career center called Miracle Works to focus more on career training for low-income people pursuing higher paying type of work. So essentially, I guess the core functionalities of what BLOC is a platform allows the workforce center to deploy a white-labeled portal where on the job seeker and they're able to utilize a smart resume template that essentially helps them navigate the process, kind of like AI versus AI helping them navigate bias applicant tracking systems. Cover letter generators, we incorporated a job security forecaster that helps them understand the financial outlook of their career path with the chances of that career path being automated. And then we also curate recommendations on further upskilling and on employment opportunities that kind of track them into higher paying careers. And then on our actual customer end, the workforce center is able to dynamically access all of that data to receive insights on how to utilize that to serve job seekers at the individual level, but to also inform their programming at the meta level. So that's pretty much it. So if you ever use Weebly or Website Builder, for example, you can deploy
So basically, we take our name off of the software so that they can use it for whatever purposes they like. But our branding is it's the difference of saying like, oh, this is a portal by BLOC versus a portal, America Works portal that doesn't have a body.
Yeah, so you can put your own.
It's white, so they can put their own.
If you shop at Trader Joe's,
One last question, Kate.
What's one thing you do to manage your time since you are managing your own time?
One big thing that I like to do is micro tasks. So I essentially will define 5 key areas I need to really focus in on. And I'll come up with a mini task. But I'm saying something that's so small as watch 1 minute of a course to freshen up some of my data engineering skills, or send 1 sales outreach email. So I define maybe 5. The most I've ever done is 10. It's something that literally, no matter what, any day you can get done in 10 minutes, and kind of that compound effect really helps out. I'm also really big on trying to keep blocks of schedule. I'm trying to make sure that I am planning meetings in the morning and like freeing up my afternoons so that I can have more time to I don't know what you call it, right? But you know, like we're not getting broken up time, and it allows you to get more done and to focus. So I think that's
Yeah, I live on my and I like for the most part I can pretty much maybe but the other part of that is that for the most part I also don't let people like budge in on those different things. And so it's about, for me, it's just like having that consistency, because I am in school and I am doing this and I'm doing a ton of other things. So I try to be very consistent. I think, frankly, when I take meetings and stuff like that, like people know like if you're a busy person, like they kind of take it.
Yeah, I would say, I'd say the first half of my career was figuring out what I didn't want to do. And so I would be like, oh, this, but not this, and it was a lot more of not this. And so this portion of it, people are first amazed that I do so many different things, and I'm in so many different places in the course of a week. But I'm like, let me break it down. It's all around a few themes of the things that I'm attending and I say yes to. I say no to a lot more things, but the things that I really am passionate about, like I say yes to. Princeton things I tend to say I keep saying yes to all these things. Chair of reunion, so I hope you're all coming back to wave at me as we come across the stand. With the new voice of the P-Rate right here, Gary King is the new voice of the P-Rate. Which I am very thrilled to help to make that selection, and he's going to be amazing. But yeah, one more reason to come to reunions this year. But I align my time around fewer things, and so there's a commonality in the things that I go to. But similarly, I can tell you 6 months from now where I like things that I'm committed to. And you people can't just necessarily schedule me like short notice, so as much notice as you can give. Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar is my friend.
I'll be honest with you, I wish I could tell you what I'm doing. I have a 15-month-old daughter, so I don't know what I'm doing tonight. However, I do use tools, obviously, calendars, but I mean, what that makes me do is makes me really be focused and prioritize what I'm doing. So I can like do 3 things. I'm gonna do 3 things really, really well. I use Trello and Asana. Those are online tools to do task management. And I usually schedule all my meetings in the morning because I'm very fresh, and that was good. So.
That's a good thing. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I'm the mother of 4 children. I'm married, my husband's a lawyer. I don't know about time management. I'm 60 years old, it just worked out. I just have an unbelievable capacity to multitask, and I stay up all night long, and I keep telling my husband he's much slower, that you gotta get up in the morning, kicking. So I don't have any specific time management tools, I'm sorry.
I sent you Princeton.
Let's give everyone Amina Ali Jackson, Jared Crooks, Ida Epidoon, Riley Jones, and Amina Yamusah. Let's give them a round of applause. I think this was very special in that we brought forth some ideas that you normally don't get discussed when we talk about entrepreneurship. And even when we go to these meetings that have to do with diversity and inclusion, I think this is very important from this standpoint, and it gives us a sense of what has been accomplished and where we need to go and where we all resonate around these sorts of ideas and issues. Don, did you?
I just want to add to the comments that Bruce just shared. PEC has a token of our appreciation for 5 phenomenally inspiring conversations. Thank you very much for taking the time today. We also have one for our co-host, and we're going to turn the tables a little bit for a second, and I'm going to ask Bruce a couple questions because he was the inspiration to bring Princeton to Harlem, but the inspiration was also because Silicon Harlem is doing some amazing things. So Bruce, can you share with the crowd a little more about the vision, the inspiration, and hopefully the impact?
Yeah, thanks, Don. First of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize my tremendous colleagues. Eric Cunningham, who's been working behind the scenes, he's our CFO. Steve Wilson, who's been sitting in the back. We look into the phone. Thanks, Banks, who's my partner, co-founder, who couldn't be here, but he sends all of you his best wishes. I'll tell you a little bit about Silicon Harlem in terms of how we sort of got here, where we are now, where we're going, and how we want you all to become a part of what is this type of very important social venture. We're a for-profit, but we're a social venture. Our focus is on the transformation of Harlem in such a way that it becomes a model so that every urban market can take advantage of the promises of the digital economy. And we've done it over the last 5 years by being very deliberate in building an ecosystem. When we first started this work 5 years ago, there were no co-working spaces. We've helped bring a number of co-working spaces here. One is the CUNY iHub, it's on 125th Street, where my lovely wife works with her company, the Harlem Film Company, that's a part of this ecosystem. We helped bring a WeWork to Harlem. It was our goal to bring $1 billion company to Harlem to help establish a co-working space here. Now, of course, when WeWork came up here, folks called it WeWorks, they didn't know what it was. But part of what we do is we make sure that the community is comfortable with these sorts of changes, which are important about how we create this type of, and you've all heard this catch of digital inclusion, but we take it very seriously. So we do this by attracting major projects here to Harlem. Harlem is now the test bed for the advancement and acceleration of 5G technologies. We've done that by working with a consortium of major universities, Columbia University, City College, NYU, Rutgers, University of Arizona, where we are moving forward and advancing 5G technologies. And it's not simply from the standpoint of a research test bed, we're also reaching out to the local community-based real estate owners. We're working closely with Michael Wilhite, who is with Abyssinian Development Corporation. This is all very much on the ground. Where you're sitting right now, we want to transform this into a co-working space, but we want to get it designated by the City of New York as the Manhattan Gigabit Innovation Center. The next generation technology will exist here, from the fiber optic infrastructure to the type of wireless applications that will be able to be used here, but also from the fact that anyone could come from the community. You can bring your daughter here and have her learn robotics. You can come here from a school and get teacher training. We're doing a lot of this now with Department of Ed, with organizations where we're doing coding with adults. We want to make all that happen here. So where we focus right now is on our fundraising efforts. We have 2 major fundraising efforts underway. One is our Friend and Families Raise, which we want to bring to a close by the end of April. And we're looking to raise $300,000. What we do is transform this space, turn it into a co-working space and an innovation center. We've already brought in one member company, the National Urban League, the New York Urban League, where we're going to help them. They want to transform, though they're a 100-year-old community-based organization, they want to become a new company that's now taking social action to the next level. We want to make this space a co-working space so you can come in here, work, whether it's on a food startup or a VR, AR startup, and get that kind of support. With the infrastructure we're going to deploy here, this will then be the base for what will be the first ultra broadband company focused on communities. So we're going to get 5G technologies into people's homes by working with community-based organizations, with real estate owners, with anchor institutions. And we're going to solve this issue of being able to bring wireless into homes. And it's tied into this major research effort that we're doing with a project called Cosmo, which I just told you about, which is Columbia, which is City College, University of Arizona. And we'll be that company that will then spin those technologies out, create the means whereby they can be deployed in these communities, package that, and take that into other communities. So we're in discussions now with Goldman about how to potentially fund and make a company such as that happen. But what we want you to understand is, and we've got our great friend Dawn Bartlett, who knows how long we've been working on this, and how it's a social vision that drives us. Yes, we're going to build $1 billion company, but we know that there's a social vision that makes this work in people's lives, so it's cross-cutting. It affects the young people, it affects the older people, and we've done this in this iconic community of Harlem. That's why we moved from the WeWork to here on 148th Street, where it's a very different kind of space. People walk by here all the time, they look at the window and go, what do you guys do? Come on in, come on in. And we tell them what we do. But the next phase of that is not only will they look in here and try to figure out what we're doing, because it looks like no one's here because we work in the back, they'll see people here, so they'll feel welcome to come here. So that's what we're doing right now. That's our vision. We want you all to be a part of it. And within the culmination of what I've been working on, which my wife can talk about, which Carl Brown can talk about. This was an important moment to create in time so we can then use this as a launch pad where we can now move all these kind of things forward. And oh, by the way, recognizing Grace Penn, this is a send-up to the Black Reunion, which is October 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So I hope that gave you a sense of what we do, and then we'll be here so we can talk more about it. I want to talk to many of you as possible as we carry on with the evening. Don?
Bruce, thanks. And again, thank you. Let me just spend a couple more minutes before we can resume networking and mingling with each other over drinks and hors d'oeuvres. But first, much like Bruce said, we have a great team at PEC. Let me just acknowledge Diane, Neil, and Mike for all their hard work. You've actually heard the panelists tonight talk about really what PEC is doing to engage the entrepreneurially minded alumnus. And so let me just summarize 3 really key initiatives that we're driving. One is actually events like this. So we call these things TigerTalks in the city. We also have a version that takes TigerTalks on the road. In fact, last night we had 75 people in Boston together on Bitcoin. Professor Sultant came up, many of you know Ed, phenomenal conversation. We've been to Chicago, we're going to go to Atlanta, we've been to LA, we've been to San Francisco, we're going to go to London, we're going to go to Hong Kong to engage entrepreneurially minded of all backgrounds and entrepreneurs who are in tech, who are in life sciences, who are in social impact, who are in arts. They're all entrepreneurs, and we need to embrace all of us. And this is a great example of embracing and extending our reach into other segments of the alumni body. So lots of events. Next, 2 weeks from now, we're going to the Bay Area and holding a 3-day Entrepreneurs Conference. Phenomenal event. We actually did the inaugural one in Boston 16 months ago with 200 alumni in attendance. We've got a similar number of attendees, but triple the number of panelists in the Bay Area. Reunions. We do a mini entrepreneurs conference along with the Entrepreneurs Network, which is another body of alumni. We're really trying to engage fellow folks in the space. And then in November, we're going to do the first New York City Entrepreneurs Conference the day before the Dartmouth-Princeton football game at Yankee Stadium. So keep those dates in mind. And if you happen to be in the Bay Area in 2 weeks, drop by. First day is at Google, second day is at Gap, third day is at a law firm. Really inspirational panel discussions spanning all of those disciplines I talked about.
The agenda's online.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. The team, as I said, we have 70 alumni who are actually participating, all entrepreneurs across founder, investor, social impact, ed tech, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to engage, come to the events, but also come to me and say, you know what, I want to be a panelist. I've got a great topic. I can help pull this thing together. We can find a venue. We'd love to do more of these things. We're already doing 15 or 20 a year, but why not do 30 or 40? Last year we engaged 2,000 alumni at these events. Let's grow it to 3,000 or 4,000. There's no reason because of the spirit in the community. So events, learn, engage, network, things that the panelists tonight talked about. Secondly is mentoring, and we talked a lot about that tonight. Critically important. PEC actually has a really cool, what I call flash mentoring program, which sort of matches a mentee's need to talk to a subject matter expert about a particular skill, about a particular challenge, an obstacle. How do I resolve it? Learn from someone who's gone through it 3 or 4 times. You can schedule time with that mentor. A host of Princeton alumni have already volunteered their time to participate. We're looking for more mentors, also looking for more mentees. So it's a vibrant platform an ecosystem to bring mentee and mentor together. You know, I'm a mentor one day, and quite frankly, I'm a mentee the next day, because I got a startup and I've got a challenge, and I want to talk to Camille. Right? So mentoring is the second initiative. If you want to get engaged, let me know. There's lots of ways to engage around mentorship. And then thirdly is funding, which we all talk about. Recently, some phenomenal things are happening in the Princeton ecosystem. It started with 3 or 4 years ago when PEC announced the Alumni Entrepreneurs Fund, which is actually a small venture fund sponsoring and investing in young Princeton alumni startups.
Lauren's here.
What's that?
Lauren.
Is Lauren, where's Lauren? I'm
Stand
sorry,
up,
Lauren. Lauren's another colleague of mine who I did not see in the audience. So Lauren runs the Alumni Entrepreneurs Fund, really valuable set of resources, not just money, by the way, but mentoring and sessions to bring entrepreneurs together. The second really interesting phenomenon developing in Princeton, there are now 3 venture funds focused almost exclusively on Princeton startups. One of them is here tonight, Shack Ventures. Andy Armour, who's father of Luke Armour, class of 13, runs Shack. There's 2 other similar organizations, Fixgate Ventures and Nassau Street Ventures. You hear the interesting naming conventions here. But they are wonderful resources if you're looking for money. They're also wonderful resources if you want to invest money, because they obviously are raising funds for that purpose. And then in terms of raising funds and investing, the third really exciting funding opportunity is Princeton Alumni Angels. The first chapter opened up 2 years ago in the Bay Area. The second chapter opened up right here in New York City, and Rob and Lawrence and Rick and a couple others who really helped drive the formation of the second chapter of Princeton Alumni Angels. I suspect, by the way, there will be multiple chapters across the world as time passes. But Princeton has now hundreds of accredited investors participating as part of that network to invest in Princeton startups. If you haven't seen the opportunity to come to the next pitch night, it's a bi-coastal event starting next Wednesday, right? Thursday, April 4th here in New York, and then April 10th out in San Francisco, just before the conference. But if you have an interest in hearing about 6 incredible Princeton affiliated startups, think about coming to the pitch night on April 4th here in New York City, or if you happen to be in San Francisco on the 10th. So those are just ways you can engage. I hope to see many of you at these kind of events as panelists on future events. And if you have interest in the types of programs that I shared with you, please come see me. I'd love to continue to grow these programs. With that, I think it's time to have some more food and drink. Oh, there is one more thing. And I'm gonna flip a slide. Thank you, Ida. I'm gonna turn it over to Ida because there's a really big event that a couple of people have commented on.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm really excited for coming up, which Bruce talked about, is that the next Black Princeton Conference is coming up October 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Thrive is the name. You guys are getting the first look of the branding and the announcement. It's going to go out, save the dates, but Thrive, empowering and celebrating Princeton's Black alumni. We're really excited because there was such an interest on entrepreneurship. So if you liked what you heard today, the university has given us permission and actually encouragement to do on the Thursday of the conference a mini day on entrepreneurship. So we're really excited working on high level on what that's going to look like, but if you enjoyed tonight, imagine having an afternoon of that. So all Princeton alumni are invited regardless of whether you are Black or not. All of our conferences are open to every alumni. So it is a Black conference, but you can be another race and come, and you can bring, we like allies. And every Princeton alum can bring one guest. So you can bring somebody that's like mother-daughter, like somebody like, it's great. So we highly, highly encourage you. One of our co-chairs is Craig Robinson, and there's 4 fantastic co-chairs and a steering committee. I'm part of the steering committee under those co-chairs, and they are hard at work, and it's going to be amazing, and I'm really, really excited about it. October 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah. So with that, let's go partake in the reception. Everyone who's on the panel, we're going to take a quick picture, please.